Hi y'all, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm super excited to be doing a books that I read this summer video. I have been so excited to film this video, but I wanted to wait to film it until I read a lot of the books that I had on my to read list. And so I've read so many books this summer, so many awesome books, and I really wanted to do a video to share with you guys the books that I've read, the books that I found, and just all the books I've been reading. I've always been a really big reader, but ever since I quit my teaching job, which by the way, if you haven't seen my why I quit teaching video, I'll leave it linked up here somewhere. For those of you who've already seen it, thank you so much for all the love and support on that video. A lot of people have kind of been sharing their experiences with me, and it just goes to show that I made the right decision, and I have a really awesome job that gives me a work-life balance. So I've been able to get back into things that I love doing, and reading is definitely one of them. And I discovered Book Talk and BookTube, and so a lot of awesome YouTubers and TikTokers have been recommending a lot of awesome books. So I wanted to share with you my thoughts on some of the most popular TikTok books and YouTube books that I have read so far. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. It is 7:45 p.m. and I'm exhausted because I've been working all day, and I usually don't film this late in the evening. I always film in the mornings, but I poured myself some Starbucks cold brew. It's actually really good. It doesn't taste like cold brew, but it's really good. So I could get a little bit of energy in me for this video. Okay, so I'm gonna show y'all all the books, and these aren't even all of them because I'm missing, I think, 4 books. 3 were ebooks, and the others I let my sister borrow. But here are all the books that I've read so far. I'm not gonna go in any particular order. I'm just kind of gonna give you a quick, brief synopsis of the book with no spoilers. And I'm gonna rate the book. I'm gonna do it from 1 to 10. So 10 being like a 10 out of 10, you know, like amazing, and 1 being like not my favorite. So I think I'm going to start with Confess. Okay. Before I get started with any of these, actually, I wanted to let y'all know that a lot of these books are contemporary romances because I just got really sucked into the contemporary romance genre, and I basically ran with that because a lot of the books right now that are super popular on TikTok are contemporary romances. There's a couple of thrillers, but not that many. But next month I really want to get more into different genres and kind of leave, contemporary romance aside for a little bit. So anyways, let's just go ahead and get started. So one of the first books I read, actually this isn't one of the first ones, I just finished this book, and it's called Confess by Colleen Hoover. Colleen Hoover is one of my favorite authors. If you've never read any of her books, Colleen Hoover will get you out of a reading slump, I promise. Just like the way she writes and just the plot twist that she puts in her books, she is amazing. One of my favorite books from her is It Ends With Us. It's super, super popular. So if you haven't read any of her books, read that one first. So this book was actually not one of my favorite Colleen Hoover books. I definitely think I gave this book like a 6 out of 10, which is really sad because I love her writing style. I just didn't like the plot and the storyline of this book. So basically this book is about a girl named Auburn, and she, at the very beginning of the book, this is not a spoiler because it's in the prologue, that she is dating when she's younger, like 15, she's dating her boyfriend Adam, and he passes away from cancer, I believe. And so it kind of goes in, that's how the book starts, so it's not a spoiler like I said. But basically this book is about Auburn, and she's living in Dallas, which that's why I picked the book, because I'm from Dallas too. And she's really trying to rebuild her life after Adam died, and this is years later, this storyline. And she basically stumbles across an art studio in Dallas, and she sees a help wanted sign, and lo and behold, this beautiful man comes out and asks her if she needs a job, and she says yes because she needs a job. And so she starts working at this art studio, and it's really cool because the art studio, the guy, his name is Owen, he draws or he paints pictures based on people's confessions. So people leave confessions outside of his art studio, and he reads them and then kind of creates art based on that. But anyways, she decides to start working for him, and I can't really go into much detail in this book because if I do, then it would just give you a lot of spoilers. But she realizes she can't date Adam because he has a secret. He secretly knows her, but he doesn't say how he knows her. And she also has a really hard life, and there's a secret that she's keeping from Adam, and that's why it's called Confess, because they have to confess. But anyways, it's really just about their relationship, her and Owen, and how they need to confess to things about themselves that are keeping them apart from each other. Like I said, Colleen's writing, amazing, but this book, it didn't do it for me. Yeah, this book, definitely not one of my favorites, but I do think it's a cute story. I did like the ending. Colleen has a great way of kind of tying in real life situations. I think I didn't like this book because I just didn't like the characters. Like, I never really liked Auburn very much. I also didn't really like Owen. He just didn't do it for me. So I felt like the relationship was just not what I wanted, you know? So this is a 6 out of 10. Okay, so one of the first books that I read this summer was The Lies That Bind by Emily Giffin. And this is actually the book that kind of made me start wanting to read again. I kind of talked about it briefly in one of my vlog videos, but this is really about a girl named Cecily Gardner, and she is in a bar in the West Village in New York, and I love books that are set in New York. And she's feeling lonely and homesick, and she also just broke up with her boyfriend, so she is kind of feeling, you know, a little bit sad, and she's at a bar, and she reaches for her phone because she wants to call her ex, when suddenly a guy comes and sits next to her and kind of swoons her. His name is, what is his name? I kind of don't remember this book that much because I read it a long time ago. Oh, Grant. So she meets Grant. He comes and sits next to her and just really starts talking to her, and she's so, like, you know, just mesmerized by him and how cute he is and all of that. So they kind of hit it off, and they decide to go home together. She starts dating him, and it kind of just goes through that. And then Grant goes missing in the chaos of 9/11. And I loved that aspect of this just because, I don't know, I like things about 9/11. That sounds bad, but I just like learning about 9/11. So I thought it was cool that this was set in that time frame. And so she starts fearing the worst, and she starts thinking that he probably passed away in, you know, one of the towers. She thinks that he was going to work early that day, and he worked at the towers, so she thinks he died there. And so he is reported that he has died, and so after his death, she realizes that he actually had a secret life, and she starts investigating that secret life, and then there is this crazy plot twist, and I can't really say much more about it than that because then I'll give the book away. But this was just a really good book. I like Emily Giffin as an author. She's just a really, her writing style is really easy, and it's a good book. So definitely pick this one up. I would rate this probably an 8 out of 10. It was really good. Okay, so the next book that I read was In 5 Years by Rebecca Searle. And I actually also talked about this book very briefly in one of my vlogs. This is about a girl named Dani Cohen. Don't really want to give, like I said, spoilers, but this book, she basically has a dream, and it's in the future, and she realizes that she's not engaged to the same man, and she's in a completely different apartment. So when she wakes up, she like can't shake it, and it like really bothers her, which is annoying to me because if, like, we all have had dreams that are weird, but like she just wouldn't let it go. And so she's trying to figure out if this is a premonition of what her life is going to be. And so she goes to therapy about it. That's not a spoiler either because it says it in the book. And suddenly she realizes that her dream is actually tied into her real life. And so it kind of walks you through her navigating what she dreamt, but how it's happening in real life. But she doesn't necessarily, she's not in the new apartment with the new person, but she meets the guy that was in her dream. And so anyways, it's just about that. And I didn't like this book at all, to be honest. I rated this a 2-star because actually I rated this a 1-star because I just hated this so much. It says it's a love story, but it's not really a love story. It's actually really mostly about her and her best friend Bella and how they're so different, and her just trying to relive this dream and trying to figure out what it meant. And then when she meets the person in her dream, she's just like awkward around him all the time, and he's like, what is going on? So I don't know. This book, I didn't like it. It does have a plot twist at the end, but it was not a good plot twist, so I do not recommend this book at all. I also found myself really skimming through the pages and not wanting to read all of it, so That was a 1 out of 10 stars for me. I did not like that at all. Okay, so another book that I also really hated, I actually didn't even finish reading it because I just couldn't do it. So that is Where the Crawdads Sing. Don't come for me because I know this is so many people's like favorite book, but I just could not get into this book. First of all, okay, well, let me give you a quick synopsis. So this story is about a girl named Kaya. She's a marsh girl in the 1960s and in a little town in North Carolina. The reason I didn't like this book was because it is written in her perspective, and the way she talks is very hard to understand because since she lives in the marsh, she never went to school. She doesn't have very much education until one of the guys from the town kind of comes and starts teaching her like how to read and things like that. And the reason I didn't like this book was one, it was just hard to read and I just could not get into it. It was so slow. I found it so unrealistic how they just let a random girl live in the marsh, and like the people from the city tried to come get her a couple of times to go to school and she just kept running away, and then they were just like, okay, forget it. And that was just really odd to me. And she just lived alone ever since she was a tiny little girl in a marsh. Like that would never happen. You know what I'm saying? Like people would probably find her and like put her in an orphanage or something. But I didn't like that. And so she obviously was like very beautiful. And so the city guys really started trying to come and like get to know her. And so it just kind of navigates that. There is also a plot twist in this book at the end. When the boy goes missing, she's accused of killing him. But in reality, you know, it's a long story. She goes to trial, all this stuff. But I didn't end up finishing because I didn't like it. I didn't like the writing style. I literally got to page 203 right before Chase, or what's his name? Right before Chase goes missing. Yeah, I don't recommend this book. I don't understand why people love this book so much. Maybe if I would have finished it, I would have liked it. But again, I could not get with her love interest in this book. It was just not it for me. And yeah, I didn't finish this book. So I actually give this book another 1 out of 10 stars. If I could give it 0, I would probably do that. But yeah, I don't know how it ends, so I can't do that. But this, I definitely don't recommend either. Okay, so the next books are all, I think, mostly contemporary romance, but the next book I read was by Christina Lauren, and it is called Love and Other Words, and this was a really, really cute book. It was about a girl named Macy who is a doctor, and she lives in San Francisco, and she is engaged to a man that she's only really been dating for a couple of years, but it's really about her and her friendship with her best friend Elliot, and it kind of goes back in time, so it will be in the perspective of her in present time, and then it will flash back to her friendship with Elliot, who she hasn't talked to in a really long time, and she runs into him later on in life when she's already engaged, she's already a doctor, and she has this like connection with him because they just stopped talking out of nowhere, but we don't know why she stops talking to him. And so they kind of reconnect, and she starts to realize that she still like never really got over him, and he also didn't either. And after the first day that he saw her, he broke up with his longtime girlfriend, and I thought that was kind of cute. But it kind of goes back, like I said, in time between them now and them during their childhood, and how their relationship progressed as kids, and then when they started dating and what happens, because they, like I said, they didn't talk for years, like they didn't see each other for 10 years, and then now, and how their chemistry is so strong with each other. And then at the end of the book, it was so sweet. Like at the end of the book, there's a huge plot twist, and you learn why they haven't talked in a long time, but he doesn't know the real reason why they haven't talked in a long time. And so it's just a really cute book. I really liked it. I really liked the end. I thought that it was a really interesting way to finish the book and just to learn why she stopped talking to him. So I definitely think that I rate this book, I would say an 8 out of 10. The only reason I'm not giving it a 9 is because it wasn't my favorite book of all time, but it was really close, because there's another one that was like better than this one, and it's a really close storyline. But yeah, Love and Other Words by Christina Lauren. I couldn't put it down. Really good. I really recommend it if you want just like a cute love story, but that has a little bit of a twist. I liked that one. Okay, the next one I read is November 9. Okay, this 10 out of 10. I'm just gonna already let you know I loved this book. This is also by Colleen Hoover, my favorite author. She doesn't steer me wrong. Like, I know the other book, Confess, wasn't my favorite, but this was beautiful. It was just a beautiful story, and I loved this book. So this is basically about a girl named Fallon, and she meets a boy named Ben, who is an aspiring novelist. And Fallon used to be a child actress, but she doesn't act anymore because she was burned in a fire, and so she can't act anymore. She got cut from all the shows or movies she was doing, and she has like not a good relationship with her dad because he forgot her in the fire. He forgot that she was spending the night at his house, so she got burned, and she has like burns on her right side of her body. Anyways, she meets Ben one day at a restaurant when she is having lunch with her dad, telling him that she is moving to New York City to pursue acting because she really wants to get back in it, and her dad's being kind of not very nice. He was also an actor, and so Ben kind of comes in and swoops in and tries to pretend that he is Fallon's boyfriend, and basically from then on they realize that, you know, he's her pretend boyfriend. Her dad leaves. Anyways, they really kind of vibe, but the only thing is that she's actually moving to New York the next day, and so it's kind of like, oh, like, it was nice to meet you, I didn't have to meet you the day before I left, you know? And so they make this pact that they're only going to see each other every year on November 9th with no contact other than that. They're not going to follow each other on social media, not talk, nothing. They're just going to meet on November 9th, and they have like a meeting spot, which is a little unrealistic because, like, obviously a lot can happen in a year, so why would you meet up with someone? And they said, like, they give each other tasks, like, do this, you know, just to kind of like live your life and explore. Like, he gives her a task to date a lot because she hasn't really dated, and she tells him like she wants him to write more and to try to publish a book or whatever. So it kind of goes, every chapter is a new year, but you see their progression and like how much they just like grow in each year, and how much their relationship grows each year, and all the things that happen each year that keep them apart. And it's just, Ben is my favorite book boyfriend, and I just like him so much. He was so cute, and just I love him. And Fallon, she was so cute too. It was just a good book. I loved it. I couldn't put it down. I read it the same day I started it. The characters are just 10 out of 10. But yeah, I just loved the story, and the plot twist at the end. There's like 2 plot twists, and you're like, what is going on? So good, so wholesome. Love their story. Will forever be one of my favorite books. 10 out of 10. I'm getting a little hyper now with my coffee. Okay, I'm really sorry if my first couple of reviews were not good, but I didn't have enough caffeine in me, so yeah. Okay, my next book is The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. This book is going to be a movie starring Lucy Hale, and so I really wanted to pick it up because this book was all over TikTok, all over YouTube. People were literally saying this is one of the best books of the year, so I decided to pick it up, and I rate this book a 3, no, I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5, 4 out of 10 stars. I did not like this book. First of all, before I get into the synopsis of the book, I don't like when characters in books hate each other and all of a sudden just start loving each other. And that is what this is. It is about 2 coworkers who work at a publishing company that used to be separate companies, but then they merged together, and they have the same job title but for the different companies, but now they're merged, so they work very closely together. And there is a new job, like a promotion that is being created, like a new job that's going to be created, and either one of them, well, both of them are applying for that job. And really the book is just about their hate for each other at the beginning, and I hated it because, first of all, I didn't like the banter between them. It was so like annoying, and also like no one actually acts like that at an office, I feel. I mean, I don't know, maybe they do, but it was just so annoying. Like, she was annoying. I hated her character. Her name was Lucy in the book. And then Josh, he was cute. Like, at first I didn't like him, but he's just a very, like, you know, very just serious guy, like doesn't really joke around, just wants to do his job. And she's just like this like quirky girl, and he can't stand her, and she hates him too. But then very early on in the book, okay, this isn't a spoiler because it literally happens in like chapter 1. They hate each other, right? And everyone knows that they hate each other. They mention they hate each other, and then they're just hooking up in the elevator of their job. So I was like, okay, well, there was literally no explanation as to how and why that happened when y'all were just saying y'all hated each other, and now y'all are like making out in the elevator, but y'all still hate each other. And then all of a sudden he just starts kind of like doing nice things for her, but he's still kind of rude to her, and she's like, why does he treat me this way, whatever. And it's just very clear from the get-go that Josh obviously likes her, but she doesn't get that, and he's just mean to her because he likes her. I don't know, I just didn't like this book. And then there was a part in the book that I don't want to tell you about, but he, like at the end of the book actually, we realized that he did something in his room for her, but like a long time ago when he hated her. He kind of gave me like vibes from the guy from 50 Shades of Grey, like very just stern, but like not creepy. Josh was definitely a lot like more attractive in my head, but just some of the things he did, I didn't like it. I hated it. I'm still gonna watch the movie and I hope it's better, but I just don't like this book. I would say 4 out of 5 because it got better at the end, but still not good. So there's that. I don't know why everyone loves that book. It's not that good. Okay, so the next book that I read is Beach Read by Emily Henry. I really liked this book. It's kind of a slow burn. At the beginning, I wasn't really that into it. Until the end, I got really into it. But basically, this book is about a guy named August Everett and January Andrews, and they're both writers who went to college together, and then they realized that they were like nemesis. And January has moved into this like little beach house because her dad passed away, and she found out that her dad had been cheating on her mom, and he had left this like beach house for her. And right now she's trying to write a book and she's pretty broke, so she goes and she moves into that house and is trying to figure out like what she's gonna do with that house because she doesn't want to be in there. And so it really kind of goes into her really like sadness about finding out that her dad wasn't who she thought he was all her life. And then she realizes that she lives next door to August, which she hated in college, and at first they act like they don't remember each other, but August clearly does, and she does too. And it's kind of their story about how they are currently writing a book, and he usually writes like fantasy or like sci-fi, and she writes romance, but they have writer's block. So they decide, or they make a pact that they're going to switch genres, and she's gonna write a book like sci-fi and he's gonna write a romance. And so she takes him out on like dates so that he can write about romance, and then he takes her out on like adventures so that she can try to write fantasy. And so it just kind of goes into that storyline of them going on dates, and they start falling for each other, but they always kind of had to think for each other. It's a cute book. This one, like I said, it was like an 8 out of 10 for me because I read her other book, People We Meet on Vacation, and I love Emily Henry. I think she only has this book and People We Meet on Vacation, but I'm so excited for her new book. I love her writing style, and I just loved this book. It was just a wholesome romance book. So 8 out of 10, love it. You have to read it. Okay, so the next book I read was People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. I don't have the book. I will put a picture up here. I let my sister borrow it. But that book is basically about Poppy and Alex. Poppy is, I think she works for like a travel company, and she's like an influencer, and she gets to go on these awesome trips so she can write blog posts about where she's traveled. And Alex is her best friend from college, and they always go on vacations together. She takes him with her on these vacations, but also before she was an editor, like before she was an influencer or a blogger, they used to go on trips together when they were in college. And it kind of, just talks about their friendship whenever they would go on vacation. But at the very beginning of the book, we realized that Poppy and Alex have not talked for a long time. And she kind of talks about how she misses him so much, like she misses her best friend. And she reaches back out to him and asks him if they want to like meet up, maybe go somewhere, and just, that she wants to rekindle that friendship. And she's scared that he's not gonna text her back, but he does. And so they end up meeting up after not talking for, I think, 2 or 3 years. And it's just a good book. Like it's just a romance novel, and Alex is such a cute character, and so is Poppy, and they basically go on this vacation, and it flashes back to them during when they first met and their first vacations to where they are now and navigating, like rekindling the friendship, and then they start realizing that there's more than that, and then we start realizing, because we don't know why they haven't talked, like it just kind of is leading up to like why they haven't talked in their previous vacations, because something happens on vacation. And I loved the book. My sister does not like it. She thinks it's boring, and she's like, okay, this is the only reason they stopped talking, that's dumb. But the reason I love it is because I just love the angst between them two, and just like their personalities. And Alex is just this like nerdy guy who is very like, you know, everything has to be like perfect, and Poppy's like wild and just like me kind of, and Alex is like my husband kind of. So it's just so cute, and Alex is my book boyfriend, just like Ben from November 9th. So love it. Like I said, Emily Henry is such a good writer. You just get sucked into her books, her just writing style. Love it. Just, she's great. Read Beach Read. Read People We Meet on Vacation. That one's better. I gave it a 9 out of 10 because it was a little long, but it was just good. It was actually, let me give that a 10 out of 10 because I really liked that book. So I'm going to give that one a 10 out of 10. The next book that I read was The Silent Patient by Alex McKildis. Anyways, this is the first book that I picked for my book club, because I have a book club that I made with my friends, and we read this one for the book for the month of July, and this was our August book. And so this one we started with because it's a thriller. It was all over TikTok and YouTube, and this is basically about a girl named Alicia, and she has a pretty perfect life according to everyone around her, and until one night when her husband Gabriel returns home from work and Alicia shoots him 5 times in the face, and then she never speaks again. So Alicia refuses to talk and give any explanation about what happened, and so this tragedy turns into a mystery, and it becomes like very, you know, publicized. And so she is the silent patient, and she's hidden away from the tabloids at a psychiatric ward called The Grove. And so this guy named Theo Faber, a criminal psychiatrist, starts working there, and he kind of jumps at the opportunity to work with her, and he really is very persistent about the fact that he is going to make her speak again. She does speak again, and I can't say much more after that, because it is just, this book has a plot twist, but it is very, like, I predicted what was going to happen, and I also hated how it ended, because I hate books that are like this roller coaster, and then this is how much the book, like, this was literally like the most exciting part of the book, and then it just ended. It just ended. There was no like ending to the book. And the author actually wrote in the back, he has like questions people have asked him, and people asked him like, why did you end the book so abruptly? And he's like, that's something I've really questioned, like maybe I shouldn't have done that, but I feel like you shouldn't have, because it didn't leave a good taste in my mouth. This book, I would rate it like a 7 out of 10. It kept me entertained. It was a little bit slow at the beginning. Towards the end, it got better, but there was a lot of characters that I was like, why was this character even in this book? Because they never were brought up again, and they were just like kind of like trying to confuse you with the characters, but they had no like character development, and like we're just like, why were you even in the book? So I would say this is actually Alex's first book. So for his first book, I think he did a good job, but definitely needs to work on developing characters in his book and not putting them in here if they have no reason to be. So there's that. The next book I read was another Colleen Hoover book, and it was called Verity. And this book is also a thriller. She usually doesn't do thrillers. I think this is the first time she's done like a thriller like that. This book is about a girl named Lowen, and she's a struggling writer, and she is given the opportunity to finish a series of books that a really famous author named Verity was writing, but Verity can no longer finish those books because she was in a very tragic car accident and she is in a coma. And so her husband Jeremy kind of seeks out a writer, like a good writer, so that that writer can finish the books for Verity. And so this book is about Lowen moving in to Jeremy and Verity's house, and she kind of has to go through all the manuscripts that Verity left, and she finds this crazy autobiography that Verity started writing and then stops writing right before her accident. And Lowen realizes that Verity is crazy, and it's just, it kind of goes in perspectives of Lowen writing the book and kind of falling in love with Jeremy, and her reading Verity's autobiography and uncovering that Verity is maybe not that good of a person, and she's kind of struggling with, like, should I tell Jeremy, should I not tell Jeremy? And then some creepy things start happening at the house, and it's a good book. It keeps you really sucked in. I think Colleen did a great job writing her first kind of like thriller book, and the end, I was like, what? Colleen Hoover throws you for these like plot twists, and you know they're coming, but she does such a good job of not making them like cliche plot twists. Like this one, you're like, wait, what? That's not what I thought was gonna happen. I mean, it's so good. It's a little graphic. Like, read the trigger warnings, because there's a couple of things that are mentioned in there. Like, there's child abuse in there, and that's like something I can't deal with, so I kind of just skip through that part. But it's good. You just have to read it, and then if you do read it, tell me, message me, because I need to know. I need other people to discuss with me if your team, well, I can't say it because then I'll give it away. But if you read Verity, comment down below and tell me what you thought about it, because it was really good. So, Colleen Hoover, keep those books coming because they're so good. Okay, and then the last book that I read, I think this is the last book. Yeah, it is. I read another Colleen Hoover book. I was on a kick. I really wanted to read a lot of Colleen Hoover books. She's my favorite. I read Ugly Love by Colleen Hoover, and this is about a girl named Tate and a guy named Miles. Miles is so hot in my head, like good looking, I don't know. He's a pilot, and he's very troubled, like hasn't dated anybody in 6 years. He doesn't want any relationship, and Tate moves in with her brother because she is in nursing school and she needs a place to stay, and her brother and Miles are good friends, they're neighbors, and Miles and Tate kind of have this like attraction, but he's very standoffish. He's like, I don't want a relationship. But then she kind of gets closer to him, and he tells her, look, I'm attracted to you, but I don't want anything more than just physical, physical. And she's like, why? Like, I like him so much, and I think he's starting to like me back, but why doesn't he open up and just like be in a relationship with me? And he's just like, no, this is never gonna happen. It's not gonna work out. We're never gonna be anything, because I don't want to ever date again. And so it's really just, the book navigates their attraction, and they're just two characters written so perfectly well. Like, you can feel their chemistry. It's just so good. Miles and Tate's chemistry is so good, and Colleen writes it so well. And we start discovering why Miles never has dated again for 6 years, and it actually has to do with his first love in high school, and it goes through his life with, or like Tate and Miles, like present day, and then it flashes back to him and his first love, Miles and Tate, him and his first love, and then towards the end of the book, we start realizing why what happened between Miles and his first love, and why now he can't like be with Tate, and why he's so standoffish to be in a relationship. And it's just so good, and I loved it. I rated it, I think, a 10 out of 10. I loved that book. And that is all the books that I read this summer. I read so many. I feel like I read a lot. And I'm currently reading, well, I haven't started this one yet, but I have The Unhoneymooners next. And then currently I'm reading Birthday Girl by Penelope Douglas. And I will talk about those books maybe in my next book chat. So yeah, I hope that you guys enjoyed. I know that was a lot of books, but I just wanted to give y'all a little bit of a synopsis of the books and my thoughts on them. I'm not really good at describing books, I just realized that, but I read these like a couple of weeks ago, so I kind of forgot like a lot of them, because I didn't forget, but I've just been reading so much that they all just kind of started jumbling up, and I'm also very hyper from coffee now. But anyways, let me know if you've read any of these books, and if you have, please leave comments down below. I want to discuss. I love talking about books, and I love when people get into talking about books with me. I just love that. That's why I started book club. And so also leave me recommendations for our next, like the next book that my book club should read. We're meeting next week and I want to recommend a good book. So if you read any other great books, leave them down below. Also, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel. If you enjoyed this book kind of video, let me know. I would love to make some more after I read a couple more books. Yeah, that is it. I'm gonna calm down because I've been drinking too much caffeine, and I'm gonna maybe get some rest, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.
Fly away to the sky, shining bright like a sunshine, dreaming high like the stars.